Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought that I would just sit down, do a chit chat, get ready with me, give you an update on my son Bennett. It's his birthday today, by the way. I cannot believe he's 2, but there it is. And 2 just sounds like he's not a baby. You know what I mean? Like he's a toddler now. There's no more baby about him. So I blinked and he turned 2. Anyways, I thought I'd sit down, do the makeup thing. I have a few items here that are fairly new to my collection that I just haven't done any dedicated reviews on yet, so I thought that I would include them today. For example, I have the Liaison palette here from Viseart. I keep meaning to do a review and just have not yet, so we're going to bust that out in today's video. So, let's do this. I have the feeling that this video is going to be a little bit disjointed, if only because my battery is currently at 20%. Because I did not think ahead. So I have the backup battery charging because it was at 30%. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of stopping and starting here, and hopefully I don't interrupt myself too much and lose my train of thought, which is known to happen. So anyways, before I start with makeup, I am going to put a little bit of lip balm on. This is just, I always do that. This one is from Tokyo Milk. I've had it forever, and it's getting down there. Like it's just about done. But my God, does lip balm ever take forever to use up? I'm also going to put the little bunny ears on because I don't want my hair in my face. Okay. For primer, I'm going to use one from uemura. This is the Pore Eraser Under Base Mousse. I've had it for quite some time, I just haven't used it in a while. There we go. And it really is a mousse. Like it, I totally just missed my hand. There it is there. And now it's all over my table as well. All right. So I did a whole video on Bennett back in the fall. But while I'll link it down below or put a card or I'll do something, while I do have a video on that, I am going to just do a recap here just in case you're new to the channel and haven't watched that, or you just only want to watch one video and not a whole series. So my son is 2 today, but since he's been an infant, we have noticed that one of his legs is larger than the other. I'll insert a picture here because you can really see the difference in his legs. So one is noticeably chunkier than the other, and even when he's wearing like pants, one pant leg, like his left pant leg will get stuck up around his calf because it's bigger than the calf of his right leg, and it doesn't bother him, like he doesn't experience any pain or anything. But since the time he's been an infant, we've been asking the doctor, like, what is this? Because we've never seen that before. So our doctor did not think that it was as big a concern as I did, which I'm sure is quite common for a lot of parents. They get very concerned about their children, and away you go. But they ultimately did refer him for an ultrasound and an x-ray. And the battery's already dying, so hold that thought. And we're back. And I'm filming on a weekend, so come along, Aspen Lily. She would like to say hi. Oh, can you take it down and just say hi?
Hello.
All right.
Bye, guys.
It's Good Friday, so everybody is home right now, and Bennett's napping, Barry's napping, Aspen is in the basement on her iPad, and I'm here, so she'll probably pop in and out a couple of times, I imagine. Anyways, where was I? I was on to foundation, I know that. So I'm going to use another product from uemura, and this is the Light Bulb Fluid Foundation. And it says that it has breathable perfection and a second skin glow. So, yes, after probably about a year of me continually raising the issue of Bennett's leg to our doctor, they did refer him for an x-ray and an ultrasound, and those results didn't show anything. I feel like I just went a little overboard with the foundation, but we'll see what happens. So while all of that was going on, the doctor also made a referral to the orthopedic clinic at the Hospital for Sick Kids in Toronto. And when the ultrasound and x-ray results came back as inconclusive of anything, we were asked whether or not we wanted to keep that referral. And I said yes, because I wasn't really satisfied. Like you can see that the leg is different. It is visibly different, and I just felt like there had to be some sort of reason for that. So we kept the appointment, and that is where we went last fall. So when we met with the orthopedic people, they were saying that not only is his leg bigger, they did their own ultrasound and they could determine that it was longer. So it is about 1.5 centimeters longer than his right leg. And the orthopedic team couldn't tell if the left leg was growing too fast or if the right leg was growing too slow. And so that is where the genetic team came in. So they referred us further to the genetic clinic at Sick Kids. And they did give us some information. This is way too light for my skin. I don't really want to add any more foundation because I have so much on my face. So we're going to try to just correct it with bronzing. Okay, so they had told us that they can basically project how much further that difference is going to grow over time. And so by the time Bennett is a teenager, they expect that the left leg is going to be 4.5 centimeters longer than the right. And I believe, and don't quote me, but I believe it was anything over 4 centimeters. They prefer to correct it because otherwise he's going to have to wear a like a lift in his shoe, or it's going to impact his gait and start creating issues for his back and things like that. So he will require some sort of surgery when he's about 12 or 13. And they couldn't tell us exactly what surgery it was going to be because, again, they don't know. Sorry, I can see a hair on my nose. They can't tell if it's growing too fast or the other one's growing too slow, and there's different surgery options for each. So, January, we receive a phone call from Sick Kids to tell us that we're still on the waiting list for the genetic team, but it's probably going to take about a year before we're seen. And then 2 weeks later, they call and say, oh, we have an appointment opening in April. So we snagged that because I didn't want to wait a year. So then fast forward to Wednesday of this week, so just 2 days ago, we had our appointment. So first we had to go and have an ultrasound done at Sick Kids and then go to one of their other buildings where the genetics clinic is housed. So the ultrasound, no real big deal. Bennett doesn't like them, he cries, but we play Baby Shark on the phone and he's fine. And then we went over and they did a very thorough examination of him. For concealer, I'm going to use the GRWM Essential High Coverage Concealer here. We ended up meeting with 3 different people on the genetics team. So there was a genetics counselor, there was another doctor and another doctor. And I can't remember exactly what their roles were. They're going to write us a letter with all the information in it. But they started off just asking me a lot of questions about my health, my family history, my pregnancy, my experiences with Aspen during her pregnancy, or I guess my pregnancy with her, you know what I mean. And then asked Barry some questions as well. And they were also asking like where our ancestry lies and all that kind of thing. And I always have a hard time answering those kind of questions because I don't know my biological father's side. I know who he is, but I've never met him, and I don't really know the history. Like, I don't really even know ancestrally where he's from. And I certainly don't know if there's a history of cancers or any sort of genetic disorders on his side or anything like that. So I only ever know like half of the story. That foundation is quite wet still, and that could just be because I put way too much on. So I'm definitely going to set it, and I'm going to use a product from GRWM. This is the Soft Focus Hydrate and Set Powder in the shade Light. Hopefully this powder will help even out my neck versus my face, because there is quite a bit of a tint to it. So it should help to deepen up everything overall. So I answered the questions as best I could. And of course they were asking about Bennett, and one of the questions that they asked me was whether or not I had a sense of whether his left leg was bigger or if the right leg was smaller. And it took me a while to figure out what they were asking me, because I was like, well, you can see it. The left leg is bigger. If you can't see that, I don't have much confidence in you. But it took me a while, and it was not that they were asking the dumb question, it's that I could not understand what it was they were asking. So what they were really getting at was whether or not I had a sense, and I don't know why they didn't ask Barry this, because he was right in the room with us. But they asked me, what they were asking was whether or not I felt, just based on him overall, if it was the left leg that was big in comparison to the rest of him, or if I thought it was the right leg was sort of lagging behind and was smaller compared to the rest of him. And as much as I wanted it to be that his right leg was slower because there's less health risks with that, I knew that his left leg was bigger. I got a cream highlight and I just put powder on. Well, we're gonna give her a go anyways. This one is from Annabelle. It is the Enlighten Highlight Drops in Champagne. I really like these. I've been really gravitating towards Annabelle as a brand recently, and I've never really paid them much attention. They are a Canadian brand, but their products are fantastic. I really like their blushes, and I'm not usually one for cream highlights, but these ones are fantastic. Sorry, I just saw a notification come up on my phone. I'm distracted. Well, it blended out over the powder nicely, so thank goodness for that. All right, for bronzing and contour, I'm going to use the Cali Contour Kit from Smashbox. So after we had our initial discussion with the genetics counselor and the doctor, they moved us over to a couple other rooms, but one of them was to weigh Bennett and to measure him, like his height. And then they took us into yet another room and did a physical examination of him. So they had the results from the ultrasound, but they also did like a physical poking and prodding. So Bennett was super jazzed by all this. But they did testing that like I had never even seen. Like they took a black light and reviewed every inch of his skin to see if there was anything under the surface that you can't see with the naked eye. And they looked behind his ears, and they looked between his toes, and it was just, I don't even know what they were looking for, and I don't need to know because they didn't find whatever it was they were looking for, so I'm pleased about that. And they did do, oh wow, that's a lot of bronzer. Good Lord. Okay, let's see if we can blend that out. So the only thing that they didn't do really was blood test. So that is the actual genetic testing. If we decided to go down that road, they could do a blood test and then do whatever it is that they do with that. And they gave us some information on that, but I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Why is this so dark today? I think it's because the foundation's so light. That's my guess. Anyways, jumping ahead, we've ultimately decided that we're not going to do the genetic testing, and I'll explain why. Okay. For blush, I have one of the cheek pops from Clinique in Ginger Pop. These are just so pretty, a little daisy on them. I love them. And although that highlighter is still peeking through, like, it's doing pretty well there. I am going to top it up a little bit with one of the ones from Hourglass, the Brilliant Strobe Light. Every time I try to say this thing, I struggle with the name of it. Hello, face. All right, here we go. We're going to go into the palette and we're going to start with this shade over here. So, where was I? Yes. After all of those tests and examinations and questions and all of that was done, they took us back to the original conference room where we had first been. And they sat us down and confirmed what it was that I had already suspected. And that is that Bennett has something called hemihyperplasia. And what that means is one part of him is growing faster than the other. That's all it really means. They called it selective hemihyperplasia because it's not the entire left side growing too fast. There's no indication that it is anywhere else. His arms are equal, his torso, his face, everything else is very symmetrical. It's just his legs that are affected by it. All right, and sorry, I'm just staring at the palette trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm going to go over to this shade over here and throw that into the crease. So what she said is, we are made up of genes and chromosomes, and that's sort of like the basic biology. And she said that somewhere along the line, one of the chromosomes, I believe it's chromosome 11, is in charge of growth. There was a change along that line somewhere with Bennett, and she said basically there's usually pairs of chromosomes, and particularly with growth, one of them says grow and the other one says stop growing. But with Bennett, he has two that are saying grow. So that is what's happening, and that's why it's growing faster. Now the concerning part is that sometimes those same chromosomes can show up in the liver and in the kidneys as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean that one kidney is going to grow faster. It means that certain tumors and cancers can appear. So there's no way to know if that is on the horizon or not. Even if they do genetic testing, she said, even if we do a blood draw and examine it, it's kind of like reaching your hand into a bucket full of red M&Ms, hoping to pull out a blue one. And so if you do happen to pull that blue one out, then you know it was in there. But if you don't, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not still there. It just means that the sample that you happen to draw didn't have it. So it's not conclusive. So that is why we've decided not to do the genetic testing, because it's not going to give us any more information than what we already have. Like, we know that he has hemihyperplasia, or hemi as they call it. We know that he has it. We can see that he has it. There's no way for us to know whether or not his liver or kidneys are going to be impacted unless a tumor develops, which isn't ideal and is very scary, but it kind of also is what it is. So I'm going to go into this dark shade down here. But what it does mean is that he has an increased risk of developing kidney or liver cancer. Now, she did give more information than what I knew. I knew that that risk existed, so while it was still disheartening to hear all of that, it wasn't the shock that it would have been had I not done research prior. And normally I would not advocate researching medical conditions online, but in this case I did manage to find some academic articles. The wording was quite dense, but I was able to figure out what was going on, and so we had that heads up. So what she did tell us was that with the liver, the risk kind of drops off at around age 4. Some research is apparently suggesting age 3, but as of right now, the treatment plan for Bennett is to continue testing his blood until he is 4. And it's looking for a particular protein marker which would indicate the presence of basically cancer, I guess, or a tumor. So that is with respect to the blood work aspect and his liver. The kidneys, the highest risk is where we're at now, so between the ages of 2 and 4, and then it continues to decline until about 8, at which point the risk becomes the same as kids without hemihyperplasia. So he will continue to have abdominal ultrasounds for the next 6 years. I'm going to go in with this one for the lid. So ultimately, it's not the worst news in the world. Certainly, there are parents at sick kids who are getting far worse news. So we're grateful for that. So what they did tell us, and what I suspected but what I didn't know, is that hemihyperplasia does not impact any other area of his life. So it's not going to create any barriers to learning and mental development. It does not limit him. There's no increased risk of like fracture or anything like that with his left leg, so he's not limited in terms of activity or sports. He doesn't need any ongoing medication. It's not a painful condition, so he doesn't have to deal with chronic pain. It is what it is. It's just a part of him. So he's just going to be a little boy who grows up to have a leg that's slightly bigger than the other, or fairly noticeably bigger than the other, but that's fine until he has the surgery. And the surgery I believe that they're going to do for him is probably cut the growth plate of the left leg to slow it down so that the right leg can catch up to it, which means he'll ultimately be a little bit shorter than he would be if that left leg was allowed to continue to grow. But if we allowed the left leg to continue to grow, then the alternative surgery is to have the right leg lengthened, and that just sounds completely barbaric to me. So, well, any surgery is unpleasant and not something that I would wish on my children. At least it's the lesser of the two evils. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit and think about what it's doing. I'm gonna do the brows. So this is from Annabelle. It's the brow fiber gel in medium/dark. Going back to the increased risk, she was, I say she, it's the genetic counselor. She did the majority of the talking. She pointed out that that increase is not, while it's a scary thing to hear, it's about a 6% increase. So it's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch that he is going to ultimately develop cancer. It's just a fairly minor increase, but it is one that needs to be watched for, and that's why we're doing all this testing every 3 months. So that's all there is really to it. He goes and sees the orthopedic people again in a few months. I need an eyeliner. Or a few months, a couple of years. I think when he's 4 he goes back, just so that they can track sort of where he's at, and then who knows from there. So with the genetics portion, he's done at this point. For mascara, I have the Eyes to Kill here from Giorgio Armani. And then the last step is just to set everything. So I'm going to use the Physicians Formula Rosé All Stay Illuminating Setting Spray. I fell instantly in love with this stuff, like instantly in love. You do have to shake it really well though. I think the thing that draws me in the most is the scent, because it does smell very much like roses, but it's also just got like a really great spray on it, and it doesn't make my face feel sticky or anything like that. It's not glittery, but it does help to add a little bit of luminescence to my skin, so I actually really like this one. See, Patrick Ha, I don't need your $32 fan. I've got one for free right here and I'm doing fine. For lipstick, I'm going to go in with Very Victoria from Charlotte Tilbury. This is one of their Matte Revolution lipsticks. So to wrap up, while anybody would wish that their children had no health concerns to worry about whatsoever, and of course Barry and I are no different, if he's going to have a health concern, this is kind of the one you'd want, because, you know, he's not going to be wheelchair bound. He's not going to be unable to participate in sports or run and play and do all the things that he should be able to do as a kid. Yes, we have to keep an eye on some very scary potentials, but like I said, there's no foregone conclusion that at some point between now and the time he turns 8, that he is going to develop cancer. There's no guarantee, and there's no guarantee even if he didn't have hemihyperplasia. So all we can do is just love him, care for him, take him to his appointments as he needs to, and just hope and pray for the best for him. And if anything happens, at least with the screening every 3 months, it will be caught early on. So I feel that he is in the best hands possible. He has a whole team at Sick Kids and they're all working together. Yes, the genetics portion is now done, but we're still well within the care of the orthopedic team. And if, God forbid, if anything else happened, there's an oncology division there as well. And I pray that we never have to go there. So that is it with regards to Bennett. Like I said, it is his birthday today. He has had some ice cream cake and opened up some new toys. He's currently napping on the floor because he has crawled out of his crib. So I think we're going to be moving him into the big boy bed very, very soon. We just have to get one. So that is that. I'm going to run through the makeup, some of it, very, very quickly just to give you some thoughts on it. This foundation I have used in the past. It's been a while since I've used it, and I've never really had an issue with it, but right now I can really feel it on my skin. I think that's because I went in far too heavy-handed with it. So if you do have this one or get it, go in with like one pump at a time rather than going a little overboard like I did today. I'm also really hot in this room, so I think the combination of the two is like just making me feel shiny and really gross. So I'm not going to write that one off at this point because I don't remember having that experience with it in the past. I think I just applied far too much. The eyeshadow palette, fantastic. It is so good. The mattes, they blend effortlessly, and the shimmers have a lot of high impact to them. I've had one of their mini palettes in the past and returned it because the shimmer shadows were just so dull. These I have no complaints about, and I really do like that it is a cool toned palette without just being all taupe. I think there's a lot that you can do with this one, and I really think it's beautiful. This is like a standout product to me, this one from Annabelle. The highlight drops I think are just so good. They blend out so nicely. I did have the drops from Cover FX and I hated them. They were just so stubborn. Like once you applied them, I found I couldn't blend it out properly, and I just spent so much time trying to that it just wasn't worth it to me. But these ones blend beautifully, and they, like I said, poked through all the other powders that I put on top of them, and they blended on top of powder as well. So if you can get your hands on Annabelle products, I know they are sold here in Canada in Walmart and Shoppers Drug Mart, I would highly recommend them. That's basically it. I'm not going to go through every single item that I have, but I just wanted to highlight those ones for you. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.